And welcome today to Wisdom Wednesdays. Today is September 23rd, 2015, and today's topic is Poetic Justice, managing stress effectively through the written and spoken word. So before we get started, there's some informational things that we need to go over today to kind of get us on the right track for managing our stress effectively. So you have this wonderful worksheet that talks about managing stress and different pieces that we want to focus on. And in this week we have to focus on our assessment portion. So we want to, when managing stress or managing one's obstacles or opportunities, we want to look and focus on the outside factors that influence, that cause us to have that emotional stress or emotional elation of our experience. Positive psychology tells us that in order for us to overcome those obstacles, we must first learn what those obstacles are. We must reframe our way of thinking and focus on the positive as we move forward. So with that being said, we're going to jump right in. I've got some questions for you to kind of talk about where we are today. Now, as you can see right here, question number 1 is, how are we doing today managing stress? It's always a really good idea to do a self-personal appraisal of where you are, what's influencing you, and what's affecting you so that you can be successful overall. It's very, very important for that because you want to be realistic, you want to be honest with yourself, but it's really good to have a good check-in to kind of manage where you are today. Number 2 is what kind of stressors you are currently facing. So looking at kind of, once again, that holistic view, what stressors or what outside opportunities or obstacles are you currently being faced with right now that are influencing you. Number 3 is what factors focus or what factors cause you to have stress. So what stressors outside? An example of this would be maybe that you are in a job or a place of employment that is kind of hostile, where your employees are not necessarily very friendly or courteous to you, or there might be that sense of a little bit of that rivalry going on in the employment environment. Or another opportunity may be an estranged relationship. So maybe with a parent or a friend or a peer where the relationship is not 100% healthy, that might be one opportunity or event that causes you stresses from the outside. So the next thing we got to look at is what happens to our body, our brain, when we are experiencing stress. And this is really important because you want to think about what's going on in our body holistically before we go forward. So here's kind of a little piece about what's going on with the brain. So you can kind of see that right there specifically. So we have certain aspects. So there's the idea of chronic stress, so stress that doesn't just go away after a good night's sleep or exercising. These things can cause inadequate sleep, poor nutrition, and emotional distress overall, which can lead to major problems in your personal and professional life. Then it goes to increasing in glucocorticoids, which basically allows the brain to not process information at a speed that it needs to be. So there might be that delay of focus, that concentration. There's cellular changes within the hippocampus, which directly affects your outcome and your outlook. And then you might have a decreased regulation of cortisol. So what those things can focus on: 1, attention; 2, perception; 3, short-term memory; 4, learning; and finally, word finding. So maybe not being able to find those words. So stress really can be detrimental. So making sure that we are successful in overcoming our stress is very, very important. All right, next up, we have to understand the stress process. And what I mean by stress process, I mean there's actually a plan. So utilizing the stress planning process can really help us be effective in managing our overall personal stress and our stressors that we are influenced by every single day or each day of the week. So first of all, the stress management process. So here we have right here, let me see if I can get that better shot right there. Okay. The stress management planning process. Okay, so the stress management planning process basically says this. First of all, you have to identify the sources of stress in your life. 1, the schedule of the most recent experience that you experience stress. Number 2, keep a stress diary or a daily journal of the stressors that you experience and how you handle them or tried to manage them is very effective. And then finally, utilizing a stress SWOT. So SWOT is a wonderful tool because it looks at strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of any given situation that you're currently facing. Then we want to list and prioritize the sources of stress. We want to focus on what is really important on helping us understand and relate to the information. Next up, we want to identify appropriate stress management techniques, utilizing our various ways of managing that stress effectively. And we can do this in a number of ways. One thing we can do that really is effective in helping us manage our stress is creating a holistic, individualized stress management plan for us. That's talking about things that we really like to do. If you like to walk, go for daily walks or a few times a week. If you like to meditate, get into yoga, kickboxing, running, jogging, working out. Those are just some ways that you can actually help you manage stress more effectively. So when we think about stress, we look at overall the factors that influence us, that keep us from being that person of resiliency. So learning what factors influence our stress allows us to target those stressors and find positive ways of coping and handling our stress effectively. One such technique is using poetry to help cope when managing stress. So poetic justice, where to begin? Well, this is kind of for some of you, this might be an actual new term or a new way of thinking about managing stress, but poetry is where we encapsulate a visualized written statement about what we are experiencing or what we visualize to be the outcome. So using poetry is a natural way for us to deal and cope and manage our emotions, especially when it comes to stress. So where to begin? Well, first, when we're writing poetry, we must look at the following poetry accessories to create an effective but relative poem for our state of being. So what does that look like? As you can see right there. So those are the steps right here. First, visualize. 2, mood. 3, author's purpose. Sounds, topic, message, and comparison. So we're going to be looking at these things about when you're working on writing an effective poem, what factors do we want to look at? What pieces do we want to look at? So that's very, very important. And then I found this really great opportunity from an opportunity online called Poetry Accessories, where you can actually use, they give an item that identifies a certain part of a poem or poetry. So it's really beneficial to use this. So first of all, they denote it in kind of a wheel spectrum, which is kind of great. So first of all, you want your poetry accessories that allow you to make a very effective, emotive poem that talks about your current state of being. Number 1, visualization. So you have to visualize what that opportunity is going to look like and where we want to go. Number 2, mood. We want to focus on our current state of being. So what kind of mood are you in today? Are you frustrated? Are you anxiety-ridden? Are you scared? Are you nervous? Are you upset? So those are factors that we want to look at as well. Number 3, we want to look at the author's purpose. So in this case, our purpose would be to help us get that stress, those obstacles, those challenges down on paper so that we can focus and be more effective. Next, we want sounds. So if you want to include sounds to incorporate how you're feeling or experiencing that stress. Obviously the topic, you want to give a good title and a topic to your poetry and have a lot of fun. You want to, then the body of the actual poem is the message. What message are you trying to convey? Are you conveying, you're dealing with the death of a loved one, with grief process? Are you currently dealing with trying to manage your time more effectively? How do you envision or visualize time to be more specifically? Or, as some students, a lot of college students find out, is procrastination your best friend, and are you trying to overcome that stressor, which is a whole other topic for a podcast. And then finally, comparison. What kind of comparisons can you relate to in your poetry for a successful poetry, for poetic justice to kind of help you manage stress effectively. So that's all the time for today for our podcast. I'm Tom Holcomb, Director of the Roar Scholars Program, and this has been Wisdom Wednesdays with Tom. And today's topic, Poetic Justice. Thanks for watching.